Hey everyone, Chris here. I'm back with even more details you might have missed from the Metaphor ReFantazio reveal. I went back and rewatched the livestream and noticed a whole bunch more information, and I even found some information from other people online. If you didn't see my first video, I recommend you go back and check it out because I will be referencing a couple of things from that. So, let's begin with a few corrections. In the first video, I accidentally named this character Marie, when in fact her name is actually Maria. I was kind of bummed out because I said her name wrong like 5 times in the previous video, but as you can see in this screenshot, it's supposed to be an A at the end of her name, not an E. So yeah, Maria. I took a guess that this enemy's name was Fiend Flower based on an item pickup you got at the end of a battle. I've since noticed that its name actually appears in the livestream. You can see it's Cannabaflow, maybe a shortening of Cannibal Flower. And lastly, I thought this was the shadow of an airship going overhead, but you can make out in this shot these are actually like flying street lamps or something. If after watching the original trailer you saw the word Fantazio and were a little confused, a quick Google search would have turned up that it's actually the word fantasy in the language Esperanto. Esperanto is the world's most widely spoken constructed language. It was created by an ophthalmologist of all people in 1887. He wanted to create a language, a second language, that the whole world could speak in order to unify them and to foster peace. There was a lot of talk in the initial teaser trailer about how the world of Metaphor was divided into various tribes, and how they wanted to be unified under one tribe. So it would reason that they would all have to speak the same language in order to communicate. And as you're about to see, the developers didn't just use this language for the title of the game. This is the default language of the people of this world. All throughout the trailer and in the game's user interface, we saw this written fantasy language. I, like a lot of people, just assumed it was a made-up language and that these runes didn't really mean anything. But then, a French Twitter user by the name of Moralane discovered that on the website, you could see these runes right next to English text. They seem to be saying the same thing. He surmised that if the language was in Esperanto, he could use these as a guide to convert those runes, which he called Metaphorunes, into the English alphabet. I've since created a much more legible version of this key that anyone can use to translate the text written in these runes. There's a download link in the video description below. So now that we have this, we can begin translating what we've seen in the trailer and in the user interface from these runes into Esperanto and into English. So let's do that. Let's start with the world map. You can see some runes here. If we translate these runes first into Esperanto and then into English, we see it says the region of Marigold. Likewise, the runes in this watery area translate into Old Archipelago. The Vitruvian man-looking statue that is the centerpiece of the Akademeia room is covered from head to toe in these runes. So what do they say? I translated as many as I could make out, and it's all the names of the various archetypes. At least 5 of them were ones we've seen elsewhere in the trailer. And those are Paladin, Magic Knight, Swordmaster, Soul Hacker, and one that said Magic Servant, but I think that might have been Magic Seeker. I found 5 more rather fantasy-sounding ones such as Sorcerer, Prince, Priest, Dragoneer, and Samurai. 6 that were a bit more esoteric, such as Messiah, Devil's Advocate, Sniper, Entry Master, Militia, and Scammer. And the final 3 were quite odd. Persona, Kung Fu Master, and then Big O? Wait, Big O? Maybe I didn't translate that one right. At least that's what I think it said. There were likely many more archetype names on the statue that were just too blurry for me to translate. The decorative text on the new Bond screen says things like Hot Pulse, Hand Temperature 100 degrees, Anxiety, Firm Grip, Comfortable, I know about that too, and look at your feelings. And I noticed the symbol for money is an L with a line, and the symbol for mag is an M with a line through it. As I speculated in the first video, a lot of the story of Metaphor seems to revolve around a novel that the protagonist carries. We see what I think are quick flashes of pages from this novel in the trailer, or they could be pages from a different book. Regardless, what do they say? As you can see here, this chapter is referring to anxiety, and it also corresponds with the dialogue that's in the trailer. Someone is saying, everyone's fighting their fear and anxiety. Game director Hashino-san said that a key concept in the game is facing your fear. He spoke about how fear can sometimes paralyze us, but it can also propel us forward outside our comfort zones. The last sentence on this page coincides exactly with that core theme of the game. These two pages appear to come from a chapter discussing the concept of a democracy, particularly from the viewpoint of a society typically run by a monarchy. The last paragraph on the second page says it best. For such ideals to manifest, a society must protect its citizens not through a bloody battle, but through a king elected by the people who will listen to their constituents and defend some quality of life. And if that king breaks his promises to the people, he would not be above being deprived of royalty. The right to do that is given to the people. The real kings and queens of the country are the people themselves. These two pages appear to be from the same chapter, also discussing the concept of elected leadership. Seeing as how so many of these pages have portions that have been redacted or blacked out, it makes me wonder if this idea of election is something that a ruling party is trying to prohibit or to conceal the knowledge of from its people. This last page of text is unfortunately too cropped to fully translate. However, it too seems to be discussing the concept of an election. I noticed something interesting in relation to the protagonist, the traveling boy. In the background of this shot, you see the protagonist roaming around the city, and you hear someone cry out, "Look, look, it's an Elda." And at the top of this shot, someone says, "It's interesting that the Eldas move around on swords." This begs the question, what is an Elda? Is that the character's race, or is it their tribe? I was able to piece together the dialogue that's spoken just before this boss battle. It begins with Gallica saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what the heck is that?" And then Stroll, who's referred to as young nobleman, says, "So that's it, eh? But what's going on? Did we get bad information?" Hulkenberg shouts, "That's no sandworm. A horror like that could only be..." To which Gallica exclaims in a question, "A human? We're not getting away without a fight." Now, I just want to pause for a second here. They think this thing is a human? At least I think it says human. Here's another screenshot. What do you think? Does that say human? Sure looks like it to me. Strahl then finishes with, "Damn it, we can't die here." Speaking of enemies, I found a couple more. First, there's this weird plant thing. You can almost make out its name here. I think it says Aquatic Strangler. And there's this little green goblin guy holding an axe. I can't make out his name, it's too blurry. During this part of the live stream, we could witness a conversation taking place in the Akademeia room. It begins with the traveling boy saying, "Yes, I want to entrust Basilio with the Berserker." Now, Basilio, I believe, is the name of the beastman we'll see in a moment, and the Berserker is the archetype. We then see the character portrait for the pale man who resides over the Akademeia room. He says, "Then hear us, O valiant heart, by something something creed, take new form as a Berserker." Also, he has horns like Strahl does. A short animation then plays showing the Berserker, and then we see the character portrait for what I believe is this character we saw earlier in the trailer, a party member. I can't make out the name that's written above what he's saying, but I'm going to assume based on the conversation that this is Basilio. He says something like, "Heh, a new archetype, eh? Something something something. That's class. One step closer to something something something." And before we move on, there was also this shot of the Akademeia room that I thought was interesting. This is the widest shot of the room we've seen, and as you can see, there's a door or possibly an elevator on the right side. The text translates to something like, "Change into the depths of the warrior," warrior being in quotation marks, probably referring to the warrior archetype. Speaking of character portraits, here's Catherine's character portrait. This is shown just before you shake her hand. She says something like, "It's a promise." And then, text appears that says, "I sense Catherine's righteous spirit and faith in me." In the background here, we can see the party selection screen. What's interesting though, is that there's a 5th party member seen, not including Gallica. Their information appears to be slightly shifted to the right, possibly indicating that they aren't currently active or in the front of the party. As for their name, all you can see are the last 2 letters, which are AH, or maybe AB. Either way, as far as I know, we haven't seen a character whose name ends with those letters. I was able to piece together much more of the conversation you have with Maria by looking at various different sections of the live stream. It begins with Maria saying someone's name and then continuing that that person, quote, "taught me how to read a little. She said it helps with keeping the inn running." The protagonist then has 2 choices, either "that's pretty impressive" or "do you help out every day?" They select the latter. Maria responds, "It's lots and lots of work, but I do. Plus, I'll work hard, then sometimes they will say I did a really good job. Papa always says not to go into his something, so I wait for him a lot. I'm good at waiting." The traveling boy responds with, "You're strong." His other response was, "Are you sure you're all right?" Maria then says, "You're helping Papa with his job, aren't you? So, be safe. That job can be really dangerous." And that's as much of the conversation I can make out. However, when I heard Maria talk about an inn and her father, I was reminded of this still shot from the trailer. The sign in the background has a crescent moon, and under it some runes, and the runes translate to inn. So does that mean that this white-haired man that you form a bond with is her papa? I realize I'm really stretching here, but hey, it could be possible. Let's end out this video with a rapid fire of the last of the details I could find. In this screenshot, it looks like all 4 party members have the same archetype equipped at the same time. Here, Strahl is swinging his melee weapon, a bastard sword. However, it looks like they left in some developer text because it says System Attribute 01. Here are the names of all the archetypes that appear in English. It looks like you get the Faker archetype from a follower named Alonzo. This screen says, Tutorial, Follower, Faker archetype unlocked. You can now study the Faker in Akademeia. Try seeing what new powers await you. This is the animation that plays when your courage levels up. While roaming the alleys of Sunshade Row in Grandtrad, you can see a beast person with their tail hanging out. And lastly, in this screenshot it says, I was amazed at Gallica, and I feel like I was able to imagine a lot more. My imagination has expanded a little. So that's it. I don't think I'll find any more details for now. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends, and thanks for watching.